Hi, this is Rachel from Jetbrains, the makers of Rider, a cross-platform IDE for .NET development. If you're not familiar with Rider, visit www.jetbrains.com/rider to find out more. For now, I'd like to invite you to watch this Syncfusion webinar about web development with Rider.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much for that introduction, Rachel. And welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone. And welcome to this joint webinar, Link Your Charts and Grids in 20 Minutes with JetBrains and Syncfusion. In this webinar, we're going to show you how to build an ASP.NET Core 5 application using JetBrains Rider and Syncfusion. In this app, we will load the Syncfusion grid control with data and then populate the Syncfusion chart with the data selected in the grid. My name is Carter Harris. I am the video marketing specialist here at Syncfusion, and I will be your moderator. Today, we're going to have two presenters, one of which you've already met, being Rachel from JetBrains, and our very own Chad Church. If during this webinar you find that you have any questions, you can submit it into the questions box that should be on the right side of your screen at any time. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar, but we also have a team of people who will be checking these questions throughout the webinar, and hopefully we should get an answer to you as soon as possible. All of these questions will also be included in a show notes post on our Syncfusion blog site, and we will be recording this webinar today, and it will most likely be uploaded on the Syncfusion YouTube channel here in the next couple of days. As well, you should be able to find it in an email going out in the next week to all registrants. But enough of the introductions. I figured I'll go ahead and pass it over to Chad to start the demo for today. Chad, it's all yours.
Hi everyone, this is Chad from Syncfusion, and in today's webinar I'm going to build the app I have on my screen right now. This is the Syncfusion chart and Syncfusion grid in an ASP.NET Core 5 web application, and it's built using the JetBrains Rider integrated development environment. And I chose this particular piece of functionality just because I've had several customer questions here recently about how exactly to make this happen. You've selected record on the grid, and that data displays in a chart. And the reason why it was a question is they want this to happen locally on the machine, and the grid data actually needs to be reformatted in order for the chart to consume it. So that's going to be the ultimate goal of this particular demo. Now I'm using the JetBrains Rider IDE, and this I'm about 4 weeks in, still using an evaluation license for it. This is I've come to like this a fair bit as I've gone through it. It has a lot of really cool stuff. It's built on top of ReSharper and IntelliJ. And ReSharper is an extension for Visual Studio. It's been around for several years, and it helps developers to write better code faster. It has a lot of editing helpers. It has a lot of standards and formatting things that you go through it, a lot of refactoring. And Rider was built on top of ReSharper, so it has a majority of everything ReSharper does. It's also added unit testing as a important bit in it, so it does all this unit testing for you or it's ready to go. And then we're using the Syncfusion controls, the ASP.NET Core suite of controls, and out of here we're using the data grid and the chart. So let's get to it. What I did was I followed this new solution and I created an ASP.NET Core web app. There was a debate whether we should go with Angular, but Angular's gotten a fair bit more attention than just your basic web app, so we went with the web app. And I'm going to do it right now. So here we go. This is the web application. We just went through that template process. And let's go ahead and make this page mine. So rename this. Just for sanity check, let's run it. Make sure there's no issues. There it is. Brand new app. Perfect. So since this app is going to use the grid, I need some data. So I'm going to add a directory, models. And to the models, I'm going to add a class. Yes, I am a master of naming conventions. Let's call this, add some properties in here. I'm going to go with your basic prop. And something that Rider does. The first thing I noticed was these little boxes that show up. These are actually ways to separate just the helpers to let you go through and put everything together. And this is going to be 1. And I stepped out of the template. Let's try to see if I can stay into it this time. Int 1, enter, enter. So hitting the enter button twice will take me into the next box, and then enter again will put me at the end. Then I can start over. And I do need these to be named properly because I want to make those curvy lines on my chart. And the proper, what I think is the proper amount of points is 5. And I think I might be done. Let me do a quick review. Okay, so the C-Torp is a live template that will create, I just type this and enter, and Rider actually goes through. Now, as I'm typing, Rider is indexing every piece of code. And when I hit that C-Torp, what it did, it went through all of the properties in this particular class, and it made my constructor string for me, or my constructor for me. So there it is. Now we can go and add this into our project. Let's define what that is, and let's create a populate method for that. And we're going to create a new one. Now, as I type my semicolon, it gets moved to the end, and I can start. So it's kind of slick. We're going to do 9 strings. Enter takes me directly into my code, so I can start coding here. And we're going to make this a little bit wider. So here we're actually going to start our new one. And the first thing I'm going to put is my name. The name of the line. And we're going to increment these, there'll be several. And we're going to have the month starting with January. It's going to be 15. Now, to go through this, one of the things that it does is we're getting a little notice here about what each of these points is going to be, what each of these properties is going to populate, which is kind of slick. And then let's add sample data, to our sample data. Now let's define this populate method, make sure it gets run, and it does. Perfect. So we're all added here. A couple things I do want to point out. This is a syntax violation or issue, standard issue, and these are the suggestions. I can do Alt-Enter, give me this, or I could click on the little light bulb, which gives me a list of particular actions. And what I'm going to do is disable it because I want to watch the squiggle go away. I can change my severity. I can change everything that happens with it. This is part of the coding standards that are integrated into this. So here we go. Now it makes a little more sense, doesn't it? Okay. And so this is the data. Data is set up and ready to run. Okay. Well, now we're going to come and add Syncfusion to this project. I'm going to add .NET Core. And we're in. Great. Well, let's come from here. I'm going to go and walk through the help for actually installing this. Go to help.syncfusion.com and ASP.NET Core. I'm adding the chart and the grid, so I found the chart first. Let's go add the chart. This is how we do. This is how we add it. We have added. I just finished the NuGet assemblies. Now let's do the next steps. Let's put the tag helper in. Let's put the style sheets in. Style sheets are required. This is how any of the layout or design customizations will be done to our controls. They're heavy CSS driven. In this case, we're pulling them in from CDN. Since this is a proof of concept, I don't mind, but I would really prefer to have everything local at some point in time. And then we're going to create our script manager. This is important. We put this someplace that's going to always be there for the pages. So as our pages loaded that have Syncfusion controls, our script manager already exists and can manage the Syncfusion scripts as they come on the page. So that should be it. Let's see. Let's go in here and let's see if the IntelliSense shows up for us. There it is, EJS. Now, the NuGet package installed every single control that we have in that suite. In this case, I only want the chart, and I'm going to give it an ID equal to chart. It's going to be important later. Let's give this a run and see if I broke anything. And it worked. So here's a chart with nothing defined. This is how the chart's going to appear. And this is our licensing banner. This can be removed by adding a key. I'll do that in a minute. You can also run your application just fine. It's just this is going to pop up, it's going to go away, and then you can finish doing whatever your application does. It's just a little irritant to help you get properly licensed. So let's come back to here, and I'm going to go into startup, and I'm going to show you how to put a license key in. So Syncfusion licensing, and then your keys will be off here to the right. This is where it gets added in for ASP.NET Core. I knew it was a help topic all about this. But let's come back in and start adding our controls. So we have the chart here. I'm going to actually define the primary axis. And I'm going to give it a value type equal to category. So if you notice in the data set, my x-axis is going to be strings. And to tell the chart to be ready for that, we have a category definition for it. Now I'm going to add the grid. An ID equal to grid. And I need a data source. It's going to be data. And for this one, if you notice on the original sample, I can multi-select rows, so I need to add that as well. And here's, again, I'm just going through the properties. Selection settings. The type's going to be multiple. Now I'm also going to handle a click event. So these are all the events for the rows that I can pick from, and I'm going to go with a selected event, and it's going to be the JavaScript function selected event, select record. Row selected. All right, and everybody's been watching me hand type some C# code. I'm going to spare all of us the pain. Through the magic of multiple monitors, I can paste in a little chunk of JavaScript. So what I'm doing here, well, a couple things I'm doing here. I want to actually make all the little squiggles go away. So I'm going to suppress, well, I'm going to just disable inspection on this page. Now what I'm doing, I'm going to create a grid instance. So on that row selected event, it's going to fire. I'm going to create a grid instance, and I'm going to go through EJ paste. We have a get component function that'll go through the page. It'll pull out the name and then the type of control, and I'll bring it back here. So I only have one. If I had multiple, then I would change the name or something. From this, I'm going to get the selected records. That's a property of the grid that just has a list of all the records, and I'm going to put it in the console. That's come in handy, and I don't see any reason to get rid of it just yet. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the chart, and I'm going to clear all the series off the chart. So all the lines are going to disappear. Now I'm going to parse this data, and this is the important part. I have to parse this data into an array of points, an array of XY values. That's what the chart is going to be fed. That's all it understands. So here's the creation of that. Index of month, I'm looking for all the fields that have month in it, then all the fields that have value in it. And here we're going to create a spline. I'm going to make this a 4 width. Now the marker, if you notice on the original, the original here, this doesn't have any dots to show where the actual points are. And I'm going to change that. So we're going to let the mark be visible. It's a simple change, but this is where you would make any changes you want to the actual line. And let's run this. There we go, the grid's there, and the chart's there. If I select them all, they all become visible. And this is my little sample. We have the points available. This is, again, this is all pretty much default out of the box how the chart and grid are going to function. Nothing, I didn't really do any customizations at all to it. And I did forget to mention my two favorite things about Rider. The first is this right here. This really made me very happy the first time I saw it. I can actually look farther up really quickly and easily and see what I had written, so I can see everything up here. This would have saved me a ton of time back when I was actually a paid developer. And the other thing is, if you click Shift, double tap on the Shift button, you have a search shows up. As you code with, as you code with this, everything is being constantly indexed, so you can do this kind of searching across the entire project. It's fast, it's easy, it's intuitive, and it goes away with the escape key. So that's it. That was the sum total of this webinar. I made this nice, pretty little chart. Thank you very much for your time. I think we can go to questions. Thanks, everybody.
Chad, most excellent presentation as always. Now, before we get into our Q&A session, I want to give everyone a little bit of extra time to submit questions they may have had through the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Rachel to give a quick overview of some of the licensing and other options with Jetbrains.
You can purchase Rider as a standalone IDE or as part of the .ultimate or All Products Packs licensing bundles. The .ultimate bundle includes all of our .NET tools. That's Rider, ReSharper, ReSharper C++, .trace, .cover, and .memory. The All Products Pack includes all of our IDEs. That's 15 tools in total, covering a variety of languages. We have IntelliJ, Golang, PyCharm, WebStorm, RubyMine, and several others. These licensing options are based on a subscription model. You can find pricing and licensing information at www.jetbrains.com/store for both individuals and corporations. This applies for Rider as a standalone product as well as when it's included in .ultimate and the All Products Pack. There are also some free individual subscriptions of Rider, .ultimate, and the All Products Pack available for teachers and students, nonprofits, and developers who maintain open source projects. Visit the special offers section of jetbrains.com/store for more information. Thank you for watching this webinar from Syncfusion and JetBrains.